everyone. Welcome to Randy Sands and the Mediumship Crew. And I'm very excited for tonight. I hope you guys are too. We are going to talk about NSAC, who they are, what they are, and JoAnn, forgive me if I butcher your name, but we have JoAnn Santonocito with us. And she is on the board of NSAC. So we're going to discuss who they are, what they are, and why they're important for mediums and healers and so on and so forth. So JoAnn, thank you for being a special guest tonight.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 NSAC members here, 3 from the board. So ask
Very
those
nice.
questions away when we get to that point.
Very nice, because we do have a lot of them. Before we get started, so JoAnn, question number 1.
Oof.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is NSAC and what do they do?
Well, NSAC is a national organization for spiritualists. It began in 1893 at a delegates convention and has been in existence ever since. We're one of the largest organizations in the U.S. for spiritualists. So, you know, if you go back to, been watching Stacy and her talking about all these pioneers, the organization formed to preserve the mediums and the healers. So we've been around for quite a long time. Our base office right now is in Lilydale, New York, which is the largest spiritualist camp in the country.
And what does NSAC do and why is it important now for mediums and healers?
It's important because we as an organization group together. We can work as a uniform group. And that was really the basis of the organization forming, to get together all these little independent churches all over the country to be unified, to stand up and be considered as a national organization. So when it came to, you know, lawsuits about mediums and lawsuits about healing and how we did things, we had that basis of a religious organization to stand behind you and protect you.
Which is very important.
Yes.
And I don't think that everybody realizes the importance. And that's why I really thought this was going to be an amazing topic tonight.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, independent churches, spiritualist churches, have to have their own attorney, their own accounting. They have to report to the IRS. Whereas the NSAC, you report everything to us. We have an attorney on retainer. We deal with the IRS. So a lot of that legal stuff, you have questions about your organization, you can go up to our missionaries or board liaison or the secretary's office, and we can help you work through whatever issues that you have. If you're an independent church, sometimes you're fighting by yourself.
And that's huge. I can tell you firsthand, that's huge. Jack, you had a couple questions that came through as well.
Yeah, what does one have to do to become a member of NSAC?
Basically, just join an NSAC auxiliary. We have churches all over the country. NSAC.org has an entire directory of all of our churches. So if you're in Texas, we have churches there. New York, plenty of churches up here. Wherever you are in the country, you could find an NSAC church.
And you kind of touched a little bit on like what are the benefits?
Yeah, the benefits of being in a larger organization, is that we have a newsletter that goes out on a monthly basis to keep you informed on what's going on in the organization and in the world of spiritualism. We have we produce a magazine called the Summit, or the National Spiritualist Magazine. We do for the youth and children and adults who like learning on easier words. We have the Spotlight, which Cozy Allen is the editor of that. You know, you get a lot of information about spiritualism. We have, you know, clubs within the organization. You have a teachers club, mediums club. So if you need help in anything, that help is readily available.
Very nice.
Okay, so it's like a big network.
Yeah, and we have a convention, an annual convention, where we get, you know, hundreds of people together to talk about the organization, make decisions for the organization, but yet we hold evening services. So you have, you know, 100 people that are all like-minded getting together for a week-long powwow. And that's been happening since, you know, the beginning of time.
Very sweet. Stacy, didn't you have something about becoming a minister or healer or something along those lines?
So the NSAC does offer opportunities for credentialing if you're interested in spiritualist ministry. So such as, you know, you can become a commissioned healer, like JoAnn was talking about, is one of the options. You can also become a certified medium. You can become a licentiate minister, an ordained minister. There's a little difference, right? Like a little graduatory process. You can also become a national spiritualist teacher. So you can be qualified to teach the science, philosophy, and religion of spiritualism and self-development through the national. I got the perfect job ever for a spiritualist. I am the administrator of the Educational College of Spiritualism. So that's where your first step is going to the Morris Pratt Institute and enrolling in the coursework. And then the NSAC does the credentialing process.
Very nice. Very nice. And Colleen, I think you had something as well, didn't you?
Yeah. At one point, spiritualism was this booming religion, right? And it just was all over the place. And we're seeing that it's kind of waning. What happened?
Oh, that's good. That's a good question.
That's a very good question. I really don't know how to answer that question, but I think today, with COVID in the world where it is today, and in the last probably 5 years, people are searching for something other than orthodox religions again. So this is what I would consider the upswing or the uptick in spiritualism, that, you know, we need to continue to grow and prosper. And I think that opportunity is right here. I think people got a little, my personal opinion, a little stagnant with the religion and just accepted it and didn't let it grow. You know, now we're seeing that resurgence where we really need to get out and almost minister or, you know, become missionaries for the religion, because people are thirsty. They just don't know where to go.
You know, that's a really good point. And that kind of leads me to another place, which is with the way the world is, and there's so much division, that we really need to bring, you know, love and unity back, and spiritualism back to the forefront, in my opinion. You know, that's just my humble opinion. And, you know, with time, things change. And philosophies change, the way people think changes, technology changes. A lot of things change. What can be done, or what do you think can be done in these times to help bring spiritualists back to the forefront?
I think just being ourselves, living in accordance therewith. promoting natural law, dealing with the hardships that are here and with us today, and letting people know how you deal with it. I deal with it because I have an acceptance of the law of attraction, the acceptance of the law of vibration. Well, what's that? Then you can explain that. Well, how do you learn all that stuff? Spiritualism. It's a religion. And I think we forget about natural law. And that's, we really need to start promoting that. We need to get out there and be the icons. Have people look at you and say, I'm a miserable mess and I don't know how I'm dealing with life this way, but you are, so peaceful and so you're just getting through life one day at a time. How do you do that? I do it because I have a religion of spiritualism and natural laws and the principles that guide me.
Well, and I think also that doing things like this, because this may give people an opportunity to hear about it if they hadn't before, and maybe to pique some curiosity, some interest, and hopefully they'll move forward with that and do some research. I don't know if anybody else had questions or things they wanted to put in. Those were the ones that I knew of. So why don't we open the floor now and, welcome everybody to ask questions, comment, share information. Anybody? Yes, Lynn.
Yeah, if I knew how to work that. When you say about because it being a religion and going out and promoting like the natural laws and doing a ministry, how do people get involved in that? Like through a local church or through the National Association? What would they do?
Start out with your local church. You get involved in your local church and just promoting spiritualism, helping out with classes and spreading the word, getting out to your local colleges and schools. I used to go speak at a Catholic high school every year. They had to learn about different religions, and they always, called me to go out there to talk about spiritualism. And I'm not saying you're going to convert everybody, but when there's enough spiritual people out in the world that are thriving to find a religion that connects with what they believe in. They just haven't found spiritualism yet, and then when you get up to the national level and you get comfortable with doing that, we have missionaries. You can ask a request to be a missionary for the national and go out and help, the local churches and get out to independent churches. Colleen had an independent church in Niagara Falls that I've spoke to and talked many times about, how to start a new church.
And some of us live in areas where there aren't any.
And I think that that's where the internet has become, and COVID has really helped us all, because one week we go to church here, and then the next week we're there, and you can experience different churches and find a community to thrive in.
Yeah,
Right.
and if I can just add to Colleen, because I was just thinking that too as we're talking about this. So when the organization formed, it formed not by 2, 3, 4 people, but hundreds of people, all with their own opinion on what something was. And they came together and formed our organization. Most of our organization, if not all of it, is ran by how the delegates want our organization to run and look like, not what 6 people choose for it to look like. And with COVID, I think one of the things about what's a benefit for being a member of a church, even if you don't have a church locally, you're building a community, and I think COVID taught us, as much as it's great to go in, we need people too. We just can't be self-isolated for long periods of time. It just doesn't, it's imbalance. So I think joining a community or joining an organization such as the NSAC gives you kind of that opportunity to meet a bunch of different individuals with a bunch of different, perspectives, but with a lot of the similar like-mindedness of the continuity of life, of mediumship, of healing, of spiritualist living. So, I know some people are anti-church. It's kind of the new thing, right? Like oh my gosh, So you only do it if you need to do it, but it's great to be there and be able to offer that community to people, because so many times, especially when people come into their spiritual development, be it, mediumship or healing, or, you really kind of feel alone. You feel isolated, like everybody around you doesn't believe what you believe, or you're uncertain to kind of be yourself. And then all of a sudden you find out there's an organization with thousands of people similar to you. You're like, it's kind of a sense of, I found my home, I found my tribe type of community.
And fellowship's important. And, anybody down here in South Florida, the closest thing it would probably be Loving Realm Spiritualist Church, which has been put on hold because of COVID. But it's definitely right on point, I would say. And that's, somewhere you can go for fellowship when, the numbers come back down. Anybody else have any questions or any input they would like to share? Yes, Tammy.
Other than the natural laws, are there other parameters that make you a spiritualist? Do you have to have a certain thing about you, or you're a certain belief other than the natural laws?
That's a good question.
Good question. No, your affirmish, your understanding of the continuity of life, that you continue on after here on the earth plane. What not? I can't even think of the definition now. I've gone totally blank, and I'm going to look at Stacy because I know you know the definition.
Listen, there's other members here that know the definition. But no, spiritualism is a science, philosophy, and religion. It's based upon the continuity of life demonstrated through mediumship, right? So we believe absolutely wholeheartedly in forms of communication with our loved ones who have crossed over. That's really kind of the foundation. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the Fox Sisters story. And if you're not, look it up. But there was that continuity of life that we can communicate. And that's kind of how it formed. And then it has that triune, it's the science, because we analyze and classify those manifestations, through, scientifical study, of an afterlife, or how communication and mediums, work. We talk a lot about energy, right? Because we're eternal. So of course we're energetic, because energy can't be created nor destroyed. Then we talk about the philosophy aspect of it, because, well, I know Deb says it a lot. We say it a lot, and Sir Cozy says it a lot. The more we know, the less we don't. That's kind of our motto. Keep pushing our boundaries of your understanding, and then the religion aspect of it, where JoAnn kind of said the natural law, because we strive to live. We believe in a God. It's not that we don't believe in a man-made or human-like God. Right. We believe more of a collective consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cozy, do you have anything?
Another good source of information is this book. The blue one is the new one. So that's another good source of information for anybody that may want to, do a little looking into. Anyone else?
If I might,
sure,
add a couple things.
Of course, please do.
And I was going to say, I promise I won't be long, but with me, you never know once I get started.
Take your time.
one of the greatest things about the National Spiritualist Association of Churches to me is that after our first convention, which was in Chicago, Illinois, September 27th, 28th, and 29th of 1893, and the national board was fully elected by its delegates, the board determined they needed to be recognized all over. So because the office was in Washington, D.C., at that time, they incorporated the National Spiritualist Association in Washington, D.C. The papers were filed on November 1st, 1893, and stamped and recognized on November 4th, 1893, which told everyone in the United States and beyond that spiritualism is a denomination, as the Methodists and the Catholics and the Baptists. We are recognized in all states, in all countries, although we're only incorporated in the United States. But that just excites me so, because I know that I could go at any state of the union and my ordination, my work as a spiritualist is recognized there.
Mm-hmm.
That just excites me. I also like the fact that, as Stacy and JoAnn talked about spiritualism being a science, because we do prove the continuity of life. And it's a philosophy because we do study the laws of nature, which is, with that understanding, we can then also understand the science of spiritualism even more. And then we are a religion. Spiritualism is a triune religion organization. We have a religion so we can take the laws of nature and the understanding we have to start to continue to build the foundation upon which we walk on with our words, our actions, and our deeds. We incorporate the 9 principles into our everyday life. And with that understanding, with that fountain, magnificent fountain of understanding, we know that everyone we come in contact with, whether they are in spirit and or in the physical, we are all interdependent one upon the other. We are truly all dependent on one another. What affects me will, whether you consciously are aware of it or not, affect you as well. And with every part of our knowledge, regardless of what that knowledge is, it goes into the pond and ripples out and touches all of humanity. Why am I a member of the NSAC? I've been a member, since I was 18 years old, and believe me, that's been quite a while ago. I was in my first church when I was 9 or 10 years old with my mother, and there's nothing like it. I had to stop going to the Baptist church because I would get into too much trouble. And I know I haven't told Stacy or JoAnn that, but you know, pews sometimes have screws in them. Have you ever noticed that, how they're put together? It's not good to take the screws out of the pews because they come apart. And when you're a young child, you know a dime can unscrew a screw. Anyway, I digress. But when I look at our pioneers and everything that they went through, I mean, two little girls started the communication, proved the proof of the continuity of life with a murdered peddler, Charles B. Rosna. And in November 14th, 1849 was the first public meeting for spiritualism. And those little girls went on a circuit, we might call it today. And when they were on the train going from point A to point B, sometimes they didn't dare to get off the train when it came to their stop, because there were people there that wanted to hurt them, if not kill them. The mediums that were put into jails for doing what we do now, and I don't mean to minimize it when I say is the same thing they did. It really isn't anything. Everyone can do this, but they were jailed for it. Interesting story of Maggie Waite, who was arrested for fortune telling. She went to court. She was before the judge. She said, "This is what I do. I'm a medium. It's a part of my religion." He said, "Okay, prove it to me." This was in Chicago in 1924, 26, something like that. So she said, "Okay, and he said, "Right now." So she gave him a reading right there in court. He fined her $200 for knowing too much about him. I'm going on and on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't do this. That's why
No,
I
that's fine.
keep quiet so much. But the national organization, when I wonder why I enjoy being a part of national, is because of the fact that it's one of the only spiritualist organizations that I'm aware of in the United States that's incorporated in Washington, D.C. and continues every year. We pay to keep it incorporated there. And in the States, some churches incorporate their own, and that's important for me for the protection. And to know that we have a school to help us when we decide that we want to start the pathway to hold a credential. The Morse Pratt Institute is not only a school just for NSAC. It is a school that has students worldwide. And there was a speaker at one of our conventions a few years ago from the UK that stood on the platform and praised the NSAC and Morris Pratt, because we were the only organization that's back up the bus, Cozy, because of the school that we have for spiritualism to credential spiritualist workers. They don't have a school like the Morris Pratt Institute, even in the UK. That gives me comfort. Anyway, I'll stop. As you guys know me, I could keep going, but I just appreciate having groups like this that want to know and find out more and everything. And I thank you all for this opportunity to meet you, to see that my family just grew because I have new family members. And I appreciate that. And I don't say that as in jest either. I truly, truly am very affirmed to that. So I'm done.
Well, thank you. And, You know, come on. And I do have to agree with you in the ripple effect. And one of the things that I love that's in this book is the 8 things that we should avoid as spiritualists, because those 8 things do cause a ripple effect in a negative way. If we're going to have a ripple effect, I think it should be in a positive way.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Poopy has a lot to say, apparently. Say hi, Poopy. Anyone else?
If you want more information about becoming a member of NSAC or the Morris Pratt Institute, or have any other questions afterward, nsac.org, or call the office in Lilydale, 716-595-2000. And we have plenty of those books there, those manuals for sale.
Perfect. And I think that people that aren't familiar should pick them up, because it's not a big book. It's an easy read, but there's a wealth of information, and it will give you a starting point. It really will. And, you know, it is a family. It really is, in my opinion. And it's always nice to add to it and to grow. And you can never have too much of a support system, in my opinion, either. So with that, I think that we will close for the evening. I think we'll close for the evening, because apparently I'm being told that it's time. So, Jack, would you like to say goodnight to the good people?
Good night, good people.
Good night, good people.
Good night.
Thank you all for joining us.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
It's a pleasure.
Good night.
Good night.